So, ladies and gentlemen, here's a little bit of interesting stuff to know. We are now into the fourth week of 2025. By the time you're seeing this, since I'm recording this, we're not even a whole week into this year yet. And, well, I make mention of this because there is always a tendency whenever the new year rolls around and people make resolutions and then people lie about them and then people say, I'm going to do it, and then they literally cop out mid-sentence. But then you get things like Chris, where if there was one thing that I suppose anyone who wanted to make a half good attempt at trying to do a resolution is usually trying to be healthier. That is almost always the sort of the go-to resolution, because being healthier is kind of, well, a bit of a self-explanatory sort of thing. It doesn't really require anything else beyond just deciding, you know what, you're going to change your ways, you're going to change your habits. But then again, in relation to Chris, again, the list of Chris's ailments, physical, mental, or otherwise, are numerous, nuanced, revolutionary, and completely boggling to the imagination. So let's talk about them, eh? Watch us wreck the mic, watch us wreck the mic, watch us wreck the mic. Psych. Also, health disclosure. This article contains in-depth discussion of Chris's physical and or mental health. This page is not to be construed as a substitute for medical advice or a professional diagnosis. All diagnoses are either taken from outside documentation or based on amateur analysis. Chris's ironic advice for Ivan Drago: eat less cow meat. Grilled chicken is healthier. Vegetables and fruit are a must. Walking or jogging is great exercise daily. Standing helps too. Play some Guitar Hero on guitar. You have to stand while playing and move a bit for fun and movement. Well, it's good to know that was advice. I thought Chris was applying for the role of a personal trainer. Thank goodness that's not the case, but, well, here we go. Hiya. Chris, as even those who with a cursory knowledge of medicine, can plainly see that he is not in good health, physically or mentally. Considering his obesity, lack of exercise, poor nutrition, refusal to bathe, and the grave uncleanliness of his surroundings, he has an extremely high chance of developing potentially life-threatening medical problems such as cancer, type 2 diabetes, heart failure, arteriosclerosis, and a possible premature death. And before anybody says, well, Chris, who's to say Chris wouldn't get a girlfriend by this time tomorrow? What are the chances of Chris bumping into somebody who likes obese men, likes men with poor hygiene, likes them with no real form of nutrition, who likes men who also refuses to bathe, who likes to live in absolute squalor and has a potential for a very premature death? Also, isn't it ironic that Asmongold also lives in very unkempt surroundings, and yet, well, if anything, he seems to have sturdied himself more with time. Well, then again, his surroundings aren't quite what they used to be, but that's just how that is. So I'll say this for Chris: at least they never had a rat problem in 14 Branch Lane Court. So that's something. Diet and nutrition. Why did I say it like that? Put simply, Chris is a faddy. He is a big lad. He is a very, very big boy. He was massive. Well, for a boy, he was massive. And I know it's too late. I already called him fat. I do apologize. And I'll probably say, I'll keep it short. Oh, mama, you're fat. I'm sorry, guy. I'm sorry to have brought that up. You know what? Contrary to everything I've said and everything we know about Chris, I'm sure there is a beautiful person inside. There's a few of them. Unfortunately, he continues to deny this fact, and often lies that he cooks for himself often. Chris's diet actually consists largely of fast food from McDonald's, which is admittedly not unlike the diet of many Americans. True. It shouldn't be, but it's true because, well, the only reasons why, like, it's consistently of McDonald's is because Wendy's, Taco Bell, KFC, Sonic's, Wendy's, Denny's, all of those things aren't open at 24/7 o'clock. He claims to usually only eat fast food salads, but the caloric content of these salads often exceeds fast food burgers after adding the sauce that comes with them. His diet contributes in large part to many of his health issues, as well as his financial problems. After spending 3 months in Western State Hospital, his mugshot upon returning to jail on the 3rd of May 2022 revealed him to have lost a significant amount of weight. This is likely due to Chris being completely unable to beg for money to spend on junk food. However, since his release from jail in 2023, he has quickly ballooned back to his former obesity. What a waste, huh? Hydration and water consumption. Up until 2020, Chris's water consumption was incredibly low, and his primary fluid consumption consisted mainly of carbonated drinks, as revealed by Chris having 8,000 MyCoke rewards points. For reference, buying and redeeming a 36 can pack of Coke is only equivalent to 25 points. So, if I pull my calculator out just for the moment, 36. Okay, so let's. Oh God, okay, so 8,000 divided by 25. That means Chris would need to buy 320 36 can packs of Coke to get at least to 8,000 points. God damn. This data point gives Christorians a metric in determining the amount of soda that Chris has actually consumed. In fact, it is estimated that between the 6th of March 2007 and the 4th of September 2009, Chris drank around 2,500 bottles of Coca-Cola. Now, here's the thing as well. Bottles or cans? Do you think that makes a difference? But no, it probably shouldn't, because good God almighty, how Chris did not lose both of his legs to diabetes, I will never know. And for reference, I'm drinking Rainbow Super Smoothie. Yeah. All of that. Ironically, I've literally not touched Coke since this year began, which... small steps, I suppose. Chris's heavy consumption of carbonated beverages is also illustrated in a video in 2009, wherein Chris creates his infamous Sea and Men flavoured Fanta at the request of Ivy. Chris believed that in consuming his own reproductive fluids, he could recycle his semen and protect his fertility. That's not how that works, by the way. I know, again, you don't need me to tell you this, but that's not how that works, as he likely thought men were subject to the female factoid of being born with all the eggs they'll ever have. This belief, backwards, no doubt, is in this concept alone gives Christorians great insight into Chris's incorrect view of not only biology, but how consumption of food and beverage works in the human body. Contrary to his previous practices, it seems that after 2020, Chris's water consumption has increased, as he has often been seen with a Glacier water bottle. However, as early as January of 2018, Chris expressed a favouring of water. Inside said bottle is an amethyst crystal, which Chris believes heals him and recharges his powers, as he believes the powers from the crystal are transferred into the water. This may be derived from the ancient Greeks, who believed that amethyst could protect its own owner from drunkenness, and drinking vessels made from it would prevent intoxication. Clearly, literally, clearly half of all famous Greek philosophers must have been drunks then. Just laying around listening to jazz. Exercise. While my body is strong and powerful, lies, I am unable to run fast without losing breath 10 seconds in sonic running speed. Whatever the hell that means. Chris has not had any regular exercise since leaving high school, and the lack of physical activity has contributed to his already ballooning shape. Since he barely leaves his house and focuses his time on playing video, his lack of exposure to the sunlight has left his skin a frightening paler that starkier contrast to the dark background of his room while making his videos. Then again, you would have thought that would have been an early sign of Chris developing rickets, but no, I think Chris would have to have at least leave the house at least once a day or something like that. To develop rickets, you would not have to have seen natural light for at least 2 months, something like that. Then also Chris would have probably have been at risk of developing the nystagmus if he had no light whatsoever. Also, most fat people have strong, stocky legs due to carrying around all that weight. But since Chris rarely performs any task more physically demanding than standing up, his muscles have withered away, leaving a body made almost entirely out of fat, as evidenced by his incredibly thin and weak arms that are incapable of breaking wooden sticks and barely capable of tearing cardboard. When questioned about exercise, he regarded standing up and playing Guitar Hero as exercise. Needless to say, Chris is clearly delusional. Chris never seemed to show interest in actual exergaming titles, such as Dance Dance Revolution or Wii Fit. In Chris's Parappa the Rapper contest entry, where he foolishly chose to dance, he seemed to get very tired very easily from dancing for a mere 30 seconds, and even stopped recording to take a break. Evidenced by the abrupt change of position. While attending Fridays After 5 for a while, he danced in public like a stroke victim, and then sat down to rest and play some video games outdoors. Despite this, he is capable of dancing in place for over 7 minutes in Welcome to Bollywood. Whether or not he did this with the magic of jump cuts remains to be seen. During the latter stages of his infatuation with Casey, many of Chris's videos showed a growing obsession with his own physical power. Chris apparently believes himself to be a nigh unstoppable testament to human might, and has made several videos dedicated to flexing and feats of strength, performing Herculean tasks such as lifting boxes of Minute Maid lemonade and almost doing fake push-ups. He appears to believe that he could have defeated both his rivals Greg Mays and Liquid Chris should either party ever come to blows, and as such had challenged them to fisticuffs multiple times. Of course, Chris is once again completely delusional about his own abilities. The push-ups and curls he has struggled to do on camera only serve to demonstrate exactly how hopelessly out of shape he really is. He's so fat and his muscles are so small that it's never clear whether he's actually flexing, and the fighting moves he's shown are laughably incompetent. Where Chris, to get his wish and physically confront Greg or Liquid, he would definitely have his ass handed to him. In the Father Call, and the subsequent Casey and Liquid Call, Chris made various claims about having taken up jogging. At one point he claimed to jog 5 miles, or 8 kilometers a day. But it didn't take long for Casey and her father to call him out on this obvious lie. The truth is clearly shown in Solitude's Edge, where Chris runs only a fraction of a mile and had to take 6 breaks to catch his breath, whereas a person in decent health would take a few seconds to jog the same distance without having to stop as often as Chris did. Chris's downright pathetic musculature may at least particularly stem from hypotonia, or lack of muscle tone, which can occur in people on the autism spectrum, although it is clear that his poor lifestyle has only exacerbated this. Bicycling. Chris has owned several bicycles over the course of his life, but it is unknown if he ever rode any of them regularly. The most recent one was lost in a hoard sometime before 2010. Chris has made the occasional reference to biking over the years. In Casey Call 18, he claims to have a scar above his left breast from a bicycle accident he had when he was about 5 to 7 years old. Also, Chris received a bike as a Christmas present in 1995. In his OK Cupid answers, Chris claims that he always wears a helmet when he rides a bike. Sensible. I'll give Chris credit for that one. That's actually a very safe one to have. I'll give him credit for that. In Jackie Chat 6, Jackie asked Chris to make a video of himself riding his bike. Chris claims that the bike is buried among junk and that he can no longer access it. What a wimp. The idea guys were here. Anytime Fitness. Okay, here we go. The idea guys manipulated Chris into getting a membership at an Anytime Fitness gym. In April 2018, Chris uploaded 100, a video of him working out in his bedroom with actual dumbbells of 20 pounds each, instead of lemonade boxes. He followed up by taking a selfie at an Anytime gym of him on a treadmill, speed walking to the speed of 4 miles for 2 hours. Hardly Usain Bolt. A couple of weeks after the treadmill update, Chris was cocky enough about his new lifestyle change to use a put down of telling other people they could stand to go to the gym to lose some weight. You are now blocked. Before continuing to insult me whenever possible, you should consider going to the gym yourself, as I feel you could stand to lose some weight. On the 7th of May, Chris lamented the fact that Weens had been calling up the gym to harass management about him. You jerks and trolls ruin everything. I can't even go to the gym without you harassing the gym I go to. Later, Emily shared information that Chris had been banned. Chris was legitimately getting complaints from fellow gym goers regarding being gassy and burping a whole lot, so he already had a strike against him for that. Then coupled with people calling them inevitably got him banned. By that point, just go to a different gym and don't let people know about it. That's what I suggest you do. In the Kopitz interview, Chris claimed that he had only been banned from the Ruckersville location and was still regularly going to another undisclosed location in the Charlottesville area. See? That's take my own advice. Perfect. However, knowing Chris, it is likely that this is a lie and he most likely stopped going altogether since the idea guys were removed from power. However, if he did actually continue to go to the gym, it is unlikely he could keep it a secret for very long. True. Sad, but true. Walking for exercise. Yes, the nature today is beautiful, and it was great temperature for a 4+ mile walk up to the Monticello Trail. Smiley face emoji, lightning heart, lightning. The exercise habit from the idea guys stuck with Chris temporarily, as he continued to go on walks, as seen in Walking to the Post Office, and him mentioning that he goes on nature walks with his support group. I'd say support group. I think Chris would need all the support he can get. Oh, and by the way, if you for Chris singing it like for another second, basically the article, the whole video went on to say that Chris was just walking to the post office, saying he was going to post some. So he said everyone could enjoy the view as well. Spoiled children. Chris really did just add spoiled children at the end of it. Accompanied by Chris again singing with the old nails on a chalkboard sound effect. Anyway. However, in 2018, Chris tried to sell... Anyway, sorry, what was it? In December 2018, he purchased a treadmill and filmed himself using it. For the first time in a long time, it would have seemed that Chris had started to pay at least some attention to one facet of his health. However, only a few months later, it appears that he has left his treadmill to rust. In 2018, Chris tried to sell a Fitbit activity tracker. However, no one bought it, and he kept using it. He did 23,000 steps on a walk to the post office and back. In January of 2019, he released his Fitbit info to the Brony Babes group. Eventually, though, Chris gave up on walking, mostly using the Fitbit to monitor his sleep. What a waste. Brony Babes. Chris began 2019 by participating in the Brony Babes challenge on Twitter with the goal of losing weight. He quickly abandoned it though, after a barrage of blocks from fellow participants and voice actors for My Little Pony. Exercising in jail. According to a few jail letters, Chris's primary means of exercise in jail is playing basketball in the recreation room. However, a letter from a Twitter fan known as Eels and the Eggman also shows that he was restricted from the recreation room, though Chris has not disclosed the reason for this. Any other potential means of exercise for Chris in jail are yet to be revealed. Mostly because there probably wasn't any after this, but what do we know? Now we move on to hygiene. I shower daily. What a boast that is, huh? Especially when, you know, your shower room looks like this. As quoted above, Chris claims to bathe on a daily basis. However, his propensity to lie and reports from people who have interacted with him suggest otherwise. According to Emily, he reeked of rotten watermelons. Robert Simmons V said he had a variant of the homeless person's stank, and field agents have said body odour masked with gallons of Axe. In fact, it might be that Chris regards Axe as a substitute for a shower. Don't believe that, ladies and gentlemen. It's straight up not true. You know, but even back when I was 19 and I used like nearly 100 milliliters of Lynx daily and stuff like that, even then I still showered. Just saying. Also, where Chris marinates in his own filth. No, the pale orange stained on the improperly cleaned tiles, suggesting a case of Serratia marcinensis, bacterial colony, a type of bacteria capable of causing everything from urinary tract infections to meningitis. That would explain a lot. To be honest, I think going into that, you'd end up more dirty. And we can't even tell, but even if the bathtub looks like it's streaked with grime. That shower looks like it. I'll bet you anything like maybe £10 that shower has not been cleaned in 10 years. Anyway, sorry, where were we? Rosechew seems to confirm this belief, as upon being told of Sonichu's Axe usage, she makes an awful attempt at suggestive wordplay. Suggesting both that using Axe makes Sonichu clean enough for sex, and that cheap deodorant has an aphrodisiac effect on Rosechew. No, it doesn't. Please don't lie about that. It would appear that Chris compounds this hygiene problem by frequently going for days without changing his clothes. Per usual of his videos has shown him wearing the same shirt for several days in a row. It may be that Chris just gets into nice clothing to make his videos, and as such doesn't get them dirty, allowing for him to use the same ones repeatedly. Although this hygienic habit would be at odds with everything else he does, including lying, probably. The condition of his epidermal system is so poor that it's visibly noticeable, even in his low-quality videos. The texture of grease that is probably permanently adhered to his skin creates a disgusting sheen that reflects a significant amount of light. The same goes for his hair, which is in such poor condition that when he allowed it to grow for the Tom Girl pictures, many strands were clumped together in greasy, sticky locks, looking akin to the long beard of a homeless man. And even when washed, it looks exactly as greasy and unkempt as it did before. as seen in the hair difference videos. This neglect will only make his hair fall out even faster than it already was. This lack of cleanliness, combined with the state of his room where he spends almost all of his time, means that Chris and his surroundings must smell absolutely disgusting. Chris evidently simply tolerates the horrible odours, perhaps not noticing them anymore. It may be that he has an abnormally weak or insensitive sense of smell or has gone noseblind. Few other things would allow for such living conditions. Despite his irregular, at best, use of the shower, Chris is reportedly, an enthusiastic consumer of hand sanitizer. Mims and Lucas recall that he would scrub his hands with germ-killing jellied alcohol and after every post-card game handshake at the game place, doubtlessly offending his victorious opponents. And photographs of Chris at Fridays after 5 suggest that he kept a bottle on him at all times. Additionally, Mims and Lucas said in their Q&A session that Chris didn't have any noticeable BO during his time at the game place, suggesting that his odor problems would have only worsened from that time onward. Probably because Chris actually had a place to go to, that's probably why. Blue Spike also mentions Chris's usage of hand sanitizer throughout Julie reveals herself. That might be for a different reason, but let's not jump to conclusions. A 2020 tweet suggested that Chris wears the Solitude medallion in the shower. Crayola, Model Magic, and acrylic paint are both porous when hardened, and as such, the medallion will absorb grime such as soap scum and skin cells when Chris showers with it. The medallion has grown more and more filthy and discolored due to contact with hot water. And Chris stated in a November 2021 letter that he was highly encouraged to shower daily with Bob Barker or Irish Spring soap, a towel, and shampoo while in jail, bringing hope that Chris's hygiene improved drastically at the time. Chris claimed that he was very clean. Yeah. Okay. You know what, I suppose for what it's worth, and just before we get into the vision, when it comes to, like, my overall cleanliness, ladies and gentlemen, I know I've probably also shown you guys this before, but I actually have a calendar of sorts in which I have the necessary shampoo and the necessary, like, body gel that I use daily. And I have 12 different varieties of shampoo and 12 different varieties of body gel. And for reference, I'll actually get down what I'm actually meant to be using today. Coconut, White Peach, and Unity. I know we'll break the monotony of this just a little bit because I think it's just a little bit interesting just to see how meticulous I go with this. So this is fruity coconut and white peach. It's yet to be opened, and a bottle of Lynx Unity. And to be honest, ladies and gentlemen, I know it was a very, very quick showcase, but with everything I have, because I've got like 2 bottles of each, and everything I got, it comes to only about £35 when I bought it down Superdrug. And that £35 is going to get me through the entire year of just using those sorts of things. And the variety of fruity shampoos also goes to the extent of things like caramel and pistachio, dragon fruit and vanilla, mint and tea tree, candy floss, watermelon and pomegranate, cherry and almond, lavender and vanilla, lemon and tea tree, frosted cranberry, strawberry and raspberry, and orange and satsuma. I don't know about you, ladies and gentlemen, but that's quite the smell alone from those things is absolutely to die for. But just think about how nice it will feel, ladies and gentlemen, that, you know, work for me usually takes up most of the day, and at night I'd just like to have a cup of tea and then afterwards sit down and make a video. But imagine how relaxed and just sort of in my element I'll be, sitting here, smelling of oranges and satsumas, and having like those scented candles like put up in my room, and so the entire room is like fresh, fragrant, and I'll be in my element and just relaxed. Imagine how beautiful that would be, to be relaxed. Vision. As evidenced by his oversized aviator-like glasses, Chris has a vision problem. Judging by pictures of Chris in his youth, it appears that he began wearing glasses around the time he entered high school. The extent of his eyesight problems is anybody's guess. His glasses are often fogged and dirty, thus simultaneously improving and worsening his sight along different feature dimensions. Chris often takes them off when things are getting serious, but keeps them on to read. Chris is evident in the video in which he reads a letter from Nintendo and in the future message video. Chris may also suffer from facial blindness. This may exacerbate some of his current health issues, because there are indications that he legitimately cannot see the way his unhealthy lifestyle has affected his appearance, thus removing an incentive to change. One of Chris's half-brothers, Dr. David Allen Chandler, happens to be an eye doctor whom Chris has seen in the past. The last time Chris is known to have seen him for an eye appointment was the 6th of January of 2004. Just short of 21 years ago. Also, last time to see an eye doctor, seen him for an appointment. I see what they did there. Very, very droll, Quickie. Very, very droll. Chris's driver's license has a restrictive condition checked, which commonly means that the driver must wear glasses in order to drive legally. Whether his vision contributed to the numerous vehicular incidents he has been involved in has yet to be seen. However, it is a good bet that Chris should be wearing glasses while driving, for the sake of those sharing the road with him. In his C-Log 10/04/2017 Q&A No More, Chris video, Chris's left eye is drooping noticeably, which may imply either an early sign of a stroke or substance abuse. Both of these are plausible due to his obesity and poor nutrition from the former, and his abuse of a black market drug for the latter. Hearing and speech. Little is known about the current state of Chris's hearing, but the autism papers said he suffered from high-frequency hearing loss in his early childhood. Chris has also exhibited signs of tone deafness. His musical performances show little semblance of melody at all. Chris is known for his unusual way of talking, which goes beyond to just having a southern accent. He mixes up, clutters, and substitutes sounds regularly. He also often talks quickly and slurs his words. And when he doesn't, his voice takes on a staccato rhythm. His voice itself is a very severe deformity, ranging in pitch from normal to the sound of a 3-year-old girl on helium all the way to Gilbert Gottfried. It has been medically proven that one of the effects of autism is a lack of variation in speech such as tone, pitch, and accent. It can also work backwards, which could explain Chris's far from normal voice. Autistics often have difficulty distinguishing voice tone. Although, if you are like Chris and you almost exclusively watched a lot of dubbed anime, where almost every other character was Colleen Clinkenbeard or Todd Habercorn, maybe that's also a cause for it. In his Song of Christian video, his voice sounds almost entirely normal and even deeper than latter years, except for the occasional times where he recalls Conquer on Conquer's Bad Fur Day. However, his voice deformity most likely comes from the fact he has little to no human interaction. Such isolation has been proven to change a person's perception of pitch, especially if they're autistic. Chances are more likely this has become permanent for Chris given his decades of isolation. Dental care. Chris's fondness for baring his fangs in moments of tar rage should do, has revealed substantial dental work, particularly on his back molars, which look to have had most of their surface drilled and filled to deal with cavities. It seems likely that Chris takes about as much care of his teeth as he does for any other part of his body, and that he'll be needing crowns and other more painful, expensive dental surgery. To be fair, he did say he needed like dental care or stuff like that a few weeks ago, so whatever revelation or whatever that's like come into it, we'll know for certain. Sooner probably than later. Although it is difficult to tell, partly due to Chris's awful camera work, in the few instances that we get to see his teeth, there seem to be a strange yellow-brown colour, which is likely the result of a large, and we do mean a large, consumption of carbonated drinks and poor dental hygiene. In a June 2021 chat, Chris mentioned that he had an appointment for a root canal and prep work to install a crown on one of his back teeth. In a November 2024 tweet, Chris wrote that he had two missing teeth, which had been broken and then extracted. He mentioned needing $11,000 for transplants, apparently confusing the term with implants. $11,000 just for that. Yeah, no kidding, look after your teeth, ladies and gentlemen. Look at that. Is that cardiovascular health? It is known that Chris's father, Bob Chandler, had a long history of heart problems. Knowing this, Chris should have realized that he was at far higher chance of inheriting cardiac disorders and related risk factors. Thanks to his poor decisions regarding his own health, he has made an already bad situation worse. In August of 2013, Chris indicated that the stress he's endured has begun to affect his health. Citing a symptom of high blood pressure in 2016, he implied that he has hypertension. This was later confirmed in August 2017, when he stated that he takes prescription medicine for it. In September 2017, Chris discussed his new method for growing larger breasts, which involves flavoring his food with soy sauce. It is evident that he has conflated soy-based foods with soy sauce, thinking the latter would be a good way to boost estrogen levels. In reality, the phytoestrogens found in soy products do not bind to the body's estradiol receptors and thus will have no effect on his man boobs. Conversely, soy sauce is loaded with sodium, and said sodium is actually making him fatter due to weight gain and fluid retention, as well as inflicting further damage to his heart, which is already straining under the effects of hypertension. Although drinking water does help offset the effects of sodium-laden foods, Chris is too busy slurping on Coca-Cola to ever consider adding that to his daily food regime. Although he has been drinking more water recently, due to his belief that putting a crystal in his water bottle will give him magical powers. Clearly it didn't do much to convince him to keep doing it, but there you go. In January of 2019, Chris uploaded the results of a blood sugar and blood pressure screening. Chris's blood pressure is shown to be 121/84, classified as pre-high blood pressure. His blood glucose is 63 milligrams per litre, and his total cholesterol is 140, both of which are surprisingly healthy levels considering his lifestyle. In June 2019, Chris, via his sock puppet account, claimed to have suffered a heart attack and he went to the emergency room. However, it turned out to have been a case of heartburn. His doctor referred to it as a gastro issue and advised taking Tums. Excretory health. Also, yes, there is a part down here I basically have to censor, but we'll get to that shortly. Chris has had a long history of fecal incontinence. One factor likely contributing to this is his diet. His continued abuse of his anus and rectum has also not helped. Chris also has a history of urinary tract infections, despite the condition being uncommon with men. As mentioned in the previous section, Chris revealed that he put soy sauce on everything that is not sweet, in addition to worsening his renal health. When combined with the laxative effects of his intake of 12 prunes a day, part of the same breast growth formula, this is only like to result in a higher frequency of dirty, cramped briefs. Mental health. As noted, Chris has a hostile relationship with psychotherapy, so there is little that can be said about what mental illnesses he does have, outside of the things that we do know about, because autism isn't nearly enough to explain the full spectrum of his abject psyche. Many observers have tried to pin down Chris for a variety of mental illnesses ranging from sociopathy, minus the increase in charisma, to narcissism, ditto, to schizophrenia. Signs include his disorganized speech and writing, loss of contact with reality, and paranoid ideas about being the victim of persecution or conspiracies, such as his delusional belief that Megan Schroeder and Michael Snyder were somehow responsible for him getting banned from Walmart. Yeah, that's a lot. The one mental failing that debilitates Chris most is his rigid refusal to adapt to his environment. This stubbornness, more than anything else, is what makes him so frustrating to watch. He is incapable of advancing mentally beyond the mind of a 10-year-old with some Playboy magazine stuffed under his mattress. Whatever mental problems he may have had are only exacerbated by this stubborn inability to mature or even alter his tactics. For well over a decade, he has been laid on by various trolls pretending to be young white women who are interested in a relationship with him, and yet he continually falls for it. It is Chris's refusal to listen or learn that ensures that he will continue to live in ignorance, isolation, and misery. And until he decides to change, it always will, irrespective of whether his trolls stay interested in him. It was once thought possible that Chris didn't feel like his life had truly begun, but he was still in his pre-adult years because he remained a virgin into his early 30s. And judging by his oversimplified black and white view of the world, tainted by fiction and other media messages, treatment of women, and stunned understanding of sexual relationships, because he saw sex not as a biological or recreational function or an expression of love, but rather as a rite of passage of sorts, and he therefore believed that he wasn't able to truly be an adult until he had sex. Chris later would lose his virginity for real, albeit to a hooker. As of yet, he has made few to no changes that will tangibly improve his life. In fact, he has been plunging himself and his mother even further into debt to buy toys, of all things, as well as a new car. Needless to say, no one expects Chris and Bob to be able to afford the car for long. Oh, haven't things just changed? You sweet summer child, you little article you. Since Chris has been pampered and sheltered from basically all forms of outside influence, he lacked experience with the real world. His reaction to the real world can best be seen in his reactions to trolls. Instead of dealing with them in a constructive way, such as taking their advice, or even a neutral way, either ignoring them or getting off the internet for good, he will freak out, yell at things, blame his autism or the trolls themselves for his shortcomings, and maybe crush a toy or his camera. For fun, I guess. He also has a peculiar notion that he is a slim, broad-shouldered and tan, and that he has a full head of hair and is genuinely not creepy. This image comes from two things. One, his mother would always tell him how handsome he was. This might simply be Barbara telling her son what all mothers tell their kids. Or two, he has an inability to recognize people's faces, a medical condition formerly known as prognostasia, and informally known as facial blindness. For example, during the Blanca incidents, trolls used pictures of two different girls to represent Blanca, and he never suspected a thing. He thinks that he and Billy Mays would have looked the same if Billy shaved off his beard. In high school, he had to remember his own appearance by staring in the mirror, leaving his more youthful image of himself branded in his mind. The fact that the only distinguishing features of his cartoon characters are hair and eye colour also point to this, although this may just Chris being a shitty artist. Some people think that, far from being mentally ill, Chris is just misguided and simply needs to be steered in the right direction. However, in the July 2012 arrangement for his and Barbara's actions at the game place the previous fall, Chris agreed to a plea bargain, avoiding felony charges and jail time in exchange for, among other things, mandatory psychological treatment and evaluation, which meant that Chris was forced to undergo legitimate psychiatric treatment, as opposed to simply seeing an uncertified pastoral counsellor, or risk being imprisoned. Given that most, if not all, the problems described above persist in some form or another to this day, it seems that Chris reacted to psychiatric treatment in much the same way he reacted to the education system, as it seems that whatever the psychiatric said, he took pretty much none of it in, probably taking out his anger at being forced to obey the law on the psychiatrics front by simply refusing to cooperate. Chris began listening to subliminal frequency hypnosis videos on YouTube in 2016. On the 29th of June, he uploaded announcement 0629-2016-2, and he claimed that the music had cured his autism. Again, if you're wondering, like I am, how any of that is possible, I don't really know either, because for reasons we're going to get into, it didn't particularly take long for Chris to double down on things that happened, because, well, I think we should just get into it straight away, shall we? Hey fans, I forgot to mention one thing. I've actually been on a Subliminal project, as a lot of you or some of you might have been aware of, through my history or whatever, that I try to keep private amongst my YouTube settings. But I have been enjoying for the past 3 months the Get Rid of Autism Subliminal, the one that actually works in 3 months, so less than 3 times per year, 36 times. I have been doing that. I've actually found myself more mentally capable. I do not blank out as much. I feel a little bit faster in mental processing. And I feel a whole lot better, so with that, puts out hands, I'm essentially cured of autism. Oh, and also I actually have been able to socialize better out in public, so that's another good deal right there. I'm going to put the link underneath this video, and those of you with autism, try it for yourself. Free, play it 3 times per day for 3 months. It worked for me. However, in a November Facebook post, he was back to referring to himself as high-functioning autistic person. Chris mentioned in August 2017 that he takes Valium, a drug used to treat anxiety and nervousness. I took a rest and some Valium after I got back home. I feel some recovered, but feel some mild headache now. Chris on taking the drug after feeling stressed from being told not to wear his unicorn cosplay at church. An employee at Earthbound Trading Co. had stated that when Chris was at their store, he was mumbling and talking about things in the store. So judging by that, he's not doing so good. Sexual health. Bent at a horrifying 35-degree angle, Chris's duck is a thing of almost unholy terror. While there have been much speculation as to the cause of this, possibly Brony's disease, or the rest of engaging in a dangerous, prone masturbation, it is ultimately a mystery that there will probably never be solved. While correctable, the process is expensive, and Chris has other, more important things on which to spend his, or rather taxpayers' money on. In correspondence with Jackie, Chris revealed he has checked for STDs in early 2010. He didn't have any. You could probably guess why. Gender transitioning. Hormone treatment. Normally, transgender people plan out their gender transitions with doctors to ensure safety throughout the process, especially if they are taking hormones, which can cause health issues, unless strictly monitored according to the patient's health profile. Unfortunately, Chris has done the opposite. In 2015, he acquired Estrogel, a hormone replacement therapy cream meant for postmenopausal women. It is meant to be prescription only, but Chris got around the requirement to see a doctor by ordering it through offshore pharmacy. Estrogel has several health risks such as, but not limited to, fluid retention, weight changes, rise in blood pressure, disastrous for an obese person like Chris, and blood clots. And that is when it is applied properly via a small dosage on the arm once per day. He even managed to fail at following the directions on the package, as shown in Estrogel application and vibrating bra how-to, in which he slavers the cream onto his stomach like buttering bread. Or whatever this is supposed to be. That's not the face of somebody who looks particularly clever at what they're doing. In addition, Kim Wilson revealed that he was taking hormones in May of 2015. Chris mentioned the drug again as late as August of 2016. Throughout 2015 to 16, he repeatedly complained via Facebook posts of feeling dizzy and ill, but failed to connect the dots and see that taking overdosages of a black market drug without a physician's approval could be the reason for it. In addition to Estrogel, Chris has been taking supplements because why not at this point? Why not just continue as though nothing was wrong, such as vitamins. He purchased a jar of a Solari female hormone blend SP7-7C in August of 2016, which is meant to ease menopausal symptoms. I don't really know why Chris was even doing that if Chris, if Chris doesn't have a womb, then how is Chris expected to, have menopause? Where's the fetus going to kick off? What was Chris going to do? Carry it around in a box? Arthur Spatchcock also learned that around May of 2016, Chris was fond of eating fungogreek seeds because he believed it would increase his estrogen levels. At some point in fall 2016, he finally went to a medical professional and was prescribed proper HRT. Something that anyone else would have just done from the very beginning, but there we are. Chris claims that he knows better just because somebody else told him, who was obviously not professional. One day in September of 2014, Chris decided to get a piercing on his perineum. Piercings require constant disinfection while they heal, anywhere on the body, even for very clean people, and so many trolls were concerned that considering Chris's general filthiness and the fact that the location of the piercing would receive very little air, there was a serious risk of infection. In December, he shared another picture of his piercing which showed that, while it wasn't infected, the piercing had begun to reject, tearing the skin in the process. Making lemonade out of lemons, Chris, now in the throes of his trans woman fantasy, noted with pride the tear's resemblance to the V word, and actually got it re-pierced. As you do. Without giving the original wound any longer than about a week to heal. Fortunately, Chris gave up on it after it became clear that the piercing was going to be more hassle than it was worth, and removed it for good before any serious harm was done. fantastic. That's why, again, I've never ever once got a piercing done because, well, I just never really saw the need for one. Self-inflicted taint wound. In July of 2016, Chris posted about a wound on his taint. Ew. What a start. Announcing that he had gotten it as a result of subliminal frequency hypnosis and would be growing a new labia as a result. However, as the man in the pickle suit later discovered, Chris actually went ahead and sliced... Well, I'm just going to put this out there because it's too graphic to even say, but, well, yeah. Basically, they described about this and saying, well, you know what? And the beautiful Pam Anderson Christine would be underneath. Yeah, what basically happened there was that Chris just got told, go to the hospital immediately. Chris shrugged it off and tried to say that he was trolling the trolls, but nobody bought it, and, well, basically tried to avoid talking about it online after this. Rejected by a blood bank. In January of 2017, Chris complained on Facebook that he had been turned away from a blood drive for being transgender. He stated that the reason given was that the FDA sought to not accept blood from transgender people due to the varying levels of testosterone or estrogen balances in our blood. Chris does not realize how medically sensitive patients will be when receiving blood transfusions, and that it would not be in their interest to be taking blood with hormonal imbalances, especially from Chris, whose blood has been affected by both his unhealthy lifestyle and the dangerous intake of the unsupervised estradiol drug. Sickness. On the 4th of March 2009, Chris revealed in a video that he had been suffering from a bug. Chris's voice is noticeably different. He later told everyone to give Blue Spike a cold virus if he ever encountered it in public. Even though he retracted it hours later in the day, Chris would say in a mumble chat that he has been having a sinus infection and possibly also a cold, and that he's even been having plenty of orange juice and chicken noodle soup. In another mumble chat the following day, Chris claimed he had last checked his temperature early in the day, reading at 96.8, presumably Fahrenheit. Chris claims that he will go outside to meet women locally as soon as he gets over the virus. As you do. Chris would later be spotted out of the house for church service on the 15th of March. On the 15th of January 2011, in an email with "Love you, long time," Chris admitted to lying about being sick to avoid fulfilling supposed promises he had made. However, Chris did claim to have suffered from stress-induced stomach aches and a runny nose from crying due to a family conflict. In mid-2014, Chris answered on OkCupid question that he often or would never call in sick to work or school when he is not actually ill. On the 6th of February 2011, in another email with her, Chris retold his week talking about getting antibiotics for a bladder infection. I mean, yeah, it's just blah blah blah. It's just a lot of things about, it's just a being sick or something like that. And then also it's not really worth much looking into. But then again, finally, despite taking the COVID-19 vaccine twice, Chris still caught the virus 5 times according to Chris. On the 5th of February 2022, while in jail, Chris tested positive for COVID. Chris journaled updates spanning several days about his current condition in his goddess logs. Chris's OkCupid answers reveal that he prefers having company when sick rather than being left alone, and he only likes being read to aloud when he is sick. Whatever, I suppose. I don't really know what else. Of other deformities. Chris also has mild heterochromia, which he claims is the result of pink eye medicine that he took in high school. However, in a photo of a young Chris, his right eye is green, so he probably tells the story so people think he's special. Some have pointed out that Chris has an unusually wide septum, as seen in the MySpace profile pictures. Others go as far back as to say that he lacks one altogether. The cause of this, like his bent duck, is as yet unknown. Well, that may be the case, but what is known, ladies and gentlemen, is that we have come to the end of Chris and health. So there we go, by the way. I certainly hope you guys enjoyed it. I don't really have any major things to say about this, apart from just look after your health, ladies and gentlemen. You know what? Eat your vegetables, get plenty of water, get some exercise when you can, touch grass, go outside. Just, you know, just do what you know is the right thing to do, and just look after your body, look after yourselves. That's what it's all about, and that's probably what I'm going to do after this. I mean, literally, I've been sitting here making videos, about Chris for the last 2.5 hours going on now, and maybe it's time for me to do a bit of stretching, I suppose. And yeah, I think that should be about that. So I hope all of you guys enjoyed it, and I cannot wait to see all of you guys again in the next video. So take care, and bye-bye for now.